Hi everyone, this is Group 1's small group presentation on conflict resolution for interpersonal processes. Group 1 consists of Mike, Nikisha, Ivana, Barbara, Alyssa, and myself, Rachel. In our presentation, we will be presenting conflict scenarios that one might face as a social worker in their work or in their internship. We will discuss the reason for the conflict and 2 interventions or methods that can lead towards a conflict resolution. We will also cover the stages of group and how we know this. Let's begin. So what we'll be covering in our presentation, here is a little outline of what we will be covering in our PowerPoint before moving to the scenarios. First, I will be covering the stages of group, and then we will move into the 2 interventions that will be demonstrated for you: common ground and nonviolent communication. PEC stages consist of pseudo-community, chaos, emptying, and community. The pseudo-community stage is the initial stage of the group. During this time, group members don't really know each other yet. All members mainly wish to coexist without experiencing any emotional or physical harm. The members are seeking comfort at this time. There is a lot of anxiety occurring for the group members, and they seek to the leader and/or facilitator for reassurance, structure, and guidance. Some behavioral symptoms you may see but are not limited to in this stage are shyness, silence, lack of eye contact, and attention between others. The second stage is the chaos stage. It is also called the struggle stage. Members feel driven to assert themselves and establish their own individuality in this group. The feeling in the group is tense. Behavioral symptoms such as venting, showing anger, and frustration are present at this time. Some have trouble finding meaning in their experience, and others withdraw their attention. Other behavioral symptoms that you may see but are not limited to in this stage are conflict between members and/or subgroups, hostility towards the leader, competing for the leadership with the leader, and blaming or joking. The third stage is the emptying stage. It is the transition out of the chaos stage. During this stage, group members progress from the tension and hostility of the chaos stage by emptying themselves of their projections into a productive manner with others. Understanding what each member means when speaking becomes more important than remaining silent. Disagreement comes to be viewed as a form of difference. Diversity becomes interesting rather than threatening. Also, group members explore this relatively unknown territory of truly seeing, hearing, and knowing one another. Some behavioral symptoms you may see, but are not limited to in this stage, are a sense of thoughtful stillness, members expressing and validating emotions, and listening fully to others. In the final stage of the community, which is also called the community stage, during this stage, each member is respected and each member's opinion is obtained. Members can talk about their needs and feelings without feeling judged. Members can become more witty and fun-loving in part because they feel known. During this stage of group, it turns its attention to the agenda, replicating their experience of community through the work at hand. Some behavioral symptoms you may see, but are not limited to, in this stage are working well together, context-rich humor, friendly disagreements, and a sense of mutual respect. During the 2 role plays, look for the different stages of group. Common ground is a method of conflict resolution. It is one of the interventions we will be using in one of our scenarios. It's a process where several members take up issues by dividing into groups that explore issues in a considerable depth with the aid of the leader. The goal is to fully understand the other person's point of view and why they are emotionally invested in their stance. How this intervention works is members of the group are asked to choose a side of the issue to represent. The four are then divided up into two sets of partners. Each pair of partners will represent both sides of the issue or conflict at hand. The facilitator reminds the partners of the ground rules, assuring that each person will have a full opportunity to speak about his or her perspective on the issue. However, each person will be expected to follow the rules. The rules are as follows: confidentiality. Whatever is said in the room stays in the room, no matter what. The second rule is listening fully to the other person without interrupting. Another rule is paraphrasing the content and reflect upon the feelings about what is said. Also, you are asked to use respectful language. This is an effort to understand the other person. It's not a debate. The facilitator is the one that is enforcing the rules and will only interrupt if the rules are broken to ensure that the process is followed. The facilitator will never pick a side or offer an opinion during the process. One set of partners will go first. One partner talks to the other about the issue at hand as fully as possible, talking in an I stance. In other words, she or he talks about what the issue means personally. The person's partner, the one with the opposing point of view, is instructed to listen carefully, and then when the first person is finished talking, to repeat as closely as possible to what they heard the person say and how they think the speaker feels about the subject. The facilitator then asks the first speaker if she or he felt that him or her partner heard what they were saying, and if the person was right when she labeled how she was feeling. If the speaker says not really, then the facilitator asks the second partner to try again to paraphrase the points that the first speaker was trying to express. This process continues until the first speaker feels the second partner really heard her or him and at least understands, if not agrees with, what he or she was trying to convey. This exercise forces the partners to stop their internal responding and focus on what is being said by the other, because they will be expected to paraphrase what is being said to them before being allowed the time to speak on their own behalf. Once it is certain that the first speaker has been heard and indicates that she or he has felt heard, the second partner is invited to talk about the issue under the same conditions with his or her partner. Finally, the process is meant to clarify individual meaning, to seek understanding rather than convincing others. It is used with respectful language and delivery of information, to hear the person completely and to paraphrase their comments before responding with their own. The other intervention that will be demonstrated is nonviolent communication. This is a model for communication. It is also called the language of life because it helps us transform old patterns of defensiveness and aggressiveness into compassion and empathy, and to improve the quality of all of our relationships. This skill creates a foundation for learning about ourselves and our relationships at every moment, and helps us remain focused on what is happening right here and right now. Also, having the intention to connect with ourselves and others is one of the most important goals of practicing and living a nonviolent communication lifestyle. Marshall's basic model for nonviolent communication is a process that combines four components with two parts. The four components are specific ideas and actions that fit into a form and model. The two parts provide a solid foundation and living nonviolently. They are the basis for Marshall's ideas of giving and receiving from the heart. The four components are observation, feeling, needs, and request. Observation is observing without evaluating. It consists of noticing concrete things and actions around us by distinguishing between judgment and what we sense in the present moment. We are simply observing what is there. Feeling is noticing things around us. We are inevitably experiencing varying emotions and physical sensations. We are distinguishing feelings from thoughts, which is an essential step here. Everyone has needs and values that sustain and enrich their lives. Needs are met when we experience comfortable feelings like happiness or peacefulness. When our needs are not met, we experience uncomfortable feelings like frustration. Clear and present request is crucial to nonviolent communication transformation mission. We are learning to request concrete actions that can be carried out in the present moment. We begin to find ways to cooperatively and creatively ensure that everyone's needs are met. The two parts in this model are empathy and honesty. Empathy goes beyond compassion. It is receiving from the heart, which creates a means to connect with others and share experiences in a truly life-enriching way. It allows us to put ourselves into another's shoes, to sense the same feeling and understand the same needs. It gives us a means to remain present and aware of our own needs and the needs of others, even in extreme situations. Honesty, on the other hand, is giving from the heart. It begins with truly understanding ourselves and our own needs. Being in tune with what is alive and in us in the present moment is also important. We learn to give ourselves empathy, and we start to break down the barriers to communication that keeps us from connecting with others. The four components in two parts, Marshall created a model for the life-enriching communication. The basic outline, which is right here, is as follows. When I see that blank, I feel blank because my need for blank is or is not met. Would you be willing to blank? Now that we have covered the stages of group and the two interventions that will be used in this presentation, let's take a look at the scenarios. But first, let me tell you about each person's role in each scenario. Before the other members of the group demonstrate in the role play of these two interventions, I just wanted to point it out each member's role in the Smith family and who is the therapist. The screen that you are looking at right now, these four members are the Smith family, and Alyssa is their therapist. Alyssa will be guiding the Smith family through the two interventions. Joseph Mack is our stepfather, aka Mike. He plays the role of the stepfather, and Barbara is playing the role of the mother. Nikisha and Ivana are playing the role of Mike's stepchildren, stepdaughters, and Barbara's daughters. Now that we all know the roles of each person during this role play, let's take a look at Alyssa demonstrating, along with the Smith family, these two interventions.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here today. The fact that you're all here is a step in the right direction of healing what is broken. I understand that your family is struggling with conflict and that there are some concerns that each of you would like to address in a state. I would like to start our session today by reviewing what everyone's concerns are. Mr. Smith, you are feeling underappreciated and disrespected by your stepdaughters. Ivana, you are feeling angry at your stepfather because you feel that he is drinking in excess and oftentimes drunk. Nikisha, you are feeling angry with your mother because you feel that she spends too much time trying to appease your father and You also do not like his drinking. Mrs. Smith, you are feeling that you are becoming a referee in the disagreements between your husband and daughters. Was I accurate in the summary of concerns? Okay, I would like for you to participate in an activity as a family that is meant to help you all see each other's point of view, to help you all understand where the others are coming from. Would you be willing to participate in this activity?
I guess.
Yes, definitely.
Great. It seems that Mr. Smith's drinking is an issue that you are all fighting about. I would like for you to pick the side. You feel that drinking is the cause of the conflict, or you feel that drinking is not the cause of the conflict and something else is the cause?
Well, my sister and I feel the same way.
I think Mike's drinking is a problem, but not the only problem.
I will be on my husband's side.
I would like for one person from each team to sit in these seats I have placed here in the middle of the floor.
You can go first.
Okay, let me explain the rules. Each of you will get a chance to present your views, thoughts, opinions, or concerns about Mr. Smith's drinking and the conflict within the family. You should speak from an I stance and talk about what you are personally feeling. Mrs. Smith and Nikisha, I would like for you to observe right now. You two will have your turn to speak later. Ivana and Mr. Smith, you will each take turn to speak. When speaking on the issue, no one will interrupt you. We will all listen. I would like for everyone to keep what is said here confidential. I would like for everyone to listen fully to what the other person is saying without interrupting. And everyone please use respectful language, okay? No cursing or name calling. Mr. Smith, you will go first. When Mr. Smith is finished speaking, Ivana, you will paraphrase what he has said. So you will really need to listen to him in order to do this. After you have paraphrased what Mr. Smith has said, we will see if he feels like he was heard and that you have fully relayed what he was trying to convey. If so, then it will be your turn to speak and Mr. Smith will listen and then will paraphrase you. However, if Mr. Smith does not feel heard, I will ask you to try again to paraphrase what he has said. After you both have had your say, you will switch places with Mrs. Smith and Nikisha, and they will have their turns. The purpose of this activity is for you to listen to the other point of view and gather an understanding for your family members' positions. It is important to remember that this is not a debate. My role as a facilitator is simply to ensure that everyone is following the rules. I will not interrupt anyone who is speaking except to remind them of the rules if needed. Is everyone comfortable doing this activity today?
Yes.
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 Okay, let's begin then. Mr. Smith, how about you start?
I feel like you and your sister do not respect me. No, I'm not your biological father, but I'm an adult, and I am your stepfather. I deserve to be respected. I work hard and I pay the bills. I do love you girls, and I do all that I can to try to be a good parent, but I don't like the way that you talk to me. As for my drinking, I do not feel like my drinking is a problem, nor do I think that my drinking is the cause of our family problems. So I go to work every day and pay the bills no matter what. Still make sure that you and your mother have food to eat. I just feel like you can have a better attitude. I guess that's all I want to say.
My turn?
Now you will paraphrase or summarize what your stepfather said to you about how he sees the situation.
You think that Nikisha and I don't respect you and that we have bad attitudes.
Mr. Smith, do you feel that you were heard based on Ivana's summarized?
No, because that's not all I said.
Ivana, I want you to try again. Think about what he said to you and try again one more time, okay?
Well, other than us not respecting you, you did say that you love us and you try to be a good father. You also said that you work hard for our family. You said that you don't think that your drinking is the reason our family has problems. You don't think that your drinking is a problem.
Do you feel that Ivana heard you, Mr. Smith?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ivana, you may now tell your stepfather how you feel about the family situation.
Well, it's not that I don't like you. I just don't like that you drink so much. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, Mike. I just get upset because you seem to have negative things to say to my mom about me and Nikisha a lot. Like, you don't say good things about us. It's mostly that we are spoiled or that we don't appreciate anything that you do. I know that you go to work, but just paying bills doesn't make you a good parent. You have to also be there for us and talk to us instead of drinking all night or yelling at us, and see the good that we do. And I love you too. You are the only father that I have since my dad left, but I don't like you drinking.
Mr. Smith, what did you hear Ivana say to you?
She said that she doesn't like my drinking, that she doesn't mean to be disrespectful. She thinks I talk bad about her to her mom, and that I have to be there for her beyond just financially. That she loves me too, and that I'm the only father she has since her dad died.
Ivana, do you feel that your father heard you?
Yes.
Okay, now Mrs. Smith and Nikisha, please switch seats with Ivana and Mr. Smith. Mrs. Smith, please tell us how you feel about your husband's drinking and the conflict in the home.
Well, my husband and I love my girls, but I feel torn. I'm tired of the arguing and the bickering. I think that they could all be nicer to one another. I feel like my husband's drinking is driving us all apart, and I don't want that. I want us to be close. I know my daughters had a hard time when their father left, and I don't want to see them go through that again. I just want everyone to be respectful of each other and for us to be a family.
Nikisha, will you please paraphrase what you heard your mother say?
My mom wants us to all get along and be respectful. She feels like she has to pick between us, but she loves us all. She doesn't want my sister and me to go through the pain we felt when our father left us. And she feels like Mike's drinking is driving the family apart.
Yes, exactly.
Good job, Nikisha. Now please tell us how you feel about the family situation.
Well, I do not like Mike's drinking. Mike is different when he drinks, and it can be scary sometimes. Mom, I feel like you pick Mike's side too much instead of listening to me. I also feel like I have to pick sides with Ivana just because she's my sister. Sometimes I feel like none of you care that I even exist. I wish that we could spend more time together as a family. I don't like all of the fighting, and I just want us to be a family that loves support each other. I want Mike to always be a dad and not be drunk so much.
Mrs. Smith, what did you hear your daughter say?
Nikisha, you don't like Mike's drinking and don't want him to get drunk anymore. You want us to spend more time together as a family. You feel forced to pick sides with Ivana. You feel like I pick Mike's side too much. You feel like we don't care that you exist. Keisha, we love you both so much.
Nikisha, do you feel that you were heard?
Yes, and I love you too, Mom, and you too, Mike.
How do you all feel now that you have had a chance to state your case without being yelled over, yelled at, or cut off?
Better.
Much better.
Oh, good.
I feel a little better.
Good. You all did a great job with this activity. I hope to see you guys next week, and I hope it's a good starting point and we can continue here next week.
Now that we have taken a look at an example of the common ground intervention, let's now take a look at the second scenario of Alyssa using nonviolent communication with the Smith family. Let's take a look.
So we are here today to discuss the recent conflict between family members. I have read that you have only recently become a family of 4. As Mrs. Smith, you have been raising your 2 daughters since your divorce from their father after he abandoned your family. Mr. Smith, You have not been married in the past and have no children, correct? Okay, so this might be quite an adjustment for all of you. It would appear, though, since you have all presented for this session, that you are all invested in improving your family's interactions. I would like to suggest that we do our best this evening to show respect towards one another by allowing others to be heard without interruption. Let's start with you, Mr. Smith. Please discuss the family conflict as you see it.
Well, I go to work all day, and I work hard. And I come home to these two ungrateful brats who have done nothing all day. Never show any appreciation for what I do.
All you do is drink. You start the minute you walk in the door and fall asleep with a beer in your hand in your recliner. What a loser.
Let's be mindful of our commitment to show each other that respect.
Sorry.
Mr. Smith, you may continue.
She's right. I drink a lot. I drink because they don't show me any respect. I deserve respect for jumping into this family and supporting them.
Let's examine those thoughts. You stated that you drink because your stepdaughters don't show you respect. In other words, the blame for the excessive drinking falls on the girls. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe you are blaming them for this.
He blames us for everything, Mom. Why are you surprised?
Mr. Smith, your language that you drink because they don't owe me respect suggests that you bear no responsibility for your actions and have no choices in your behaviors. If you consider the situation honestly, who is ultimately responsible for your drinking?
You're right. I choose to drink. I can't blame it on anyone.
Let's consider that you do indeed have choices other than drinking. What other choices do you have when you don't feel respected?
I don't know. I guess I could talk to them and tell them what they need to start showing me respect if they want to continue with the lifestyle that they enjoy.
Respect is clearly important to you, yet demanding it can backfire often. Just as you have choices when it comes to drinking, the girls have choices when it comes to showing you respect. When you try to make people act in a certain way, it can weaken the connection you share with them. Instead of demanding respect, you can phrase your need for respect as a request instead of a demand.
Well, girls, I guess I would just say that I care about you an awful lot. I never had kids of my own, and I was hoping that we can be a family. I still do hope that. I want to be someone you look up to and admire for my work ethic and my commitment to this family.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Girls, how does this change the way you feel about your stepfather?
He does work a lot, so we can have a good life.
Maybe I would respect him more if he wasn't always drunk.
Ivana, let's look for a minute at what happens when we generalize or use words such as always and never. It is easy to hear those words as attacks, which can further damage relationships. Instead of making an evaluation of your stepfather, such as, you are always drunk, let's simply observe what is going on in the moment. For example, you would say, when I see you blank, I think blank. Let's try that.
Okay. When I see you drinking, I think you're avoiding us.
Good work, Ivana. We will take this a step further in our next session. Taisha, would you give me some insight into the situation from your perspective?
I just feel like nobody even knows like this sometimes.
Interesting, Taisha. You began your sentence with the words I feel, yet you didn't attach a feeling to the sentence. Instead, you attached a thought. I want you to take a look at this list of feelings or words. Now look at your mom for me and tell her how you feel.
Mom, I feel neglected and you spend so much time just trying to make Mike happy.
Good. Now tell Mr. Smith what you feel.
Mike, I feel abandoned when you drink so much and don't talk to us. I feel scared that you will leave like our dad did.
You have a great understanding of this. Now, what about your sister?
Ivana, I feel bullied when you try to get me to choose between you and Mike during arguments.
Ivana, do you really do that? I wish you would straighten up.
Mrs. Smith, what exactly do you mean when you tell Ivana to straighten up?
Yeah, really, Mom. What are you talking about? My posture?
No, Ivana, you know what I mean.
Perhaps she doesn't. Let's be clear and specific. It sounds as though you need something from her. Let's help her figure out what that is.
Okay, Ivana, would you be willing to stop trying to come between family members and talking negatively about others behind their back so we can figure out how to make this family work?
Yeah, I guess I can try.
That was much more productive because you were clear in your request. Is there anything else you need, Mrs. Smith?
Well, I wish Mike wouldn't spend so much time working and drinking.
Okay. You have told Mr. Smith what you don't want him to do. How about instead of focusing on the don't, provide a clear perspective and specific request of what you do want him to do?
Oh, let's see. Mike, I would really enjoy it if you would take one night a week to come home early from work and do something fun with me and the girls, like go see a movie or play a game. I guess I don't even care what it is, just so we have time to see each other and get to know each other again.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I guess I can do that. I'm willing to try.
You have all made some fantastic progress today. I hope you've been able to see that the language we use is crucial in maintaining relationships, getting our needs met, and meeting the needs of others. We will end our session here and meet again next week, continuing.
In summary, we followed the Smith family and a family in conflict and crisis through 2 resolution strategies. Mr. and Mrs. Smith had only recently been married following Mrs. Smith's abandonment and sequential divorce from her previous husband. Mr. Smith had no children of his own and was struggling to fit in the role of the stepfather to Mrs. Smith's 2 daughters, Ivana and Nikisha. Mr. Smith was admittedly drinking too much, which impacted his relationship with his wife and stepdaughters. In spite of his good intentions to be loving and engaged father, his struggles to assimilate into the family's perspective precipitated fears of abandonment by the girls. Mrs. Smith was also feeling the effects of his drinking and felt as though her family was falling apart. They pursued help through the family therapist, where they were introduced to 2 strategies to assist them in resolving their conflict. First, we saw them engage in common ground technique with the therapist. By participating in this technique, the family was able to really listen to each other's thoughts, feelings, and needs. Through their therapist's instructions and prompting, family members learned the importance of listening without interrupting and being intentional about hearing not only what the individual was saying, but also the feelings they were portraying. The therapist also cautioned the family members that this technique is not a forum for debate, but rather a platform to be truly heard. In this exercise, the family members listened to each other and then summarized what they had heard until their partners verbalized that he or she was satisfied in being heard. As the Smith family learned, the common ground technique is not one that typically leads to a solution for a specific problem. Instead, it is about being heard. While the family members did not solve their problem in this exercise, they learned valuable lessons about their interactions and how they can be more respectful of each other in order to satisfy the needs of their family members, to be seen, heard, and known. Next, we watched the Smith family participate in the Nonviolent Communication technique. Through this practice, the family learned about the importance of their language. Mr. Smith learned how his word choice was conveying a denial of responsibility on his part for his behaviors and how accepting his role in those behaviors could more effectively lead to change. He also learned the value of making requests instead of demands, as demands can often backfire. Ivana became familiar with the dangers of evaluating instead of observing, especially using the words always and never. These words tend to feel like an attack and put the listener on the defense. By making an observation in the movement instead of evaluating, Ivana is able to focus on the behavior and reducing the chances of Mr. Smith feeling attacked. Nikisha struggles to express her feelings as she often feels invisible to the other family members. When she does attempt to express herself, she begins her sentences with I feel, but follows by a thought. She never actually identifies her feeling. Her therapist works with her to discern the difference between thoughts and feelings and focus on what she feels at the present moment. As a result, Nikisha is able to change her language through nonviolent communication. She is able to honestly express her feelings to her family members for the first time. Finally, Mrs. Smith had her passive in her attempts to keep the peace in her family. She was denied her own needs in order to focus on keeping her family together. Through the use of nonviolent communication, she was able to clearly state her needs to her family members. In both the common ground and nonviolent communication scenarios, we watch the Smith family move the stage of chaos to the beginning of the emptying stage. In the beginning, Mr. and Mrs. Smith's marriage, it is likely the group operated in the pseudo-community stage, or what is called the honeymoon period. They were all getting to know each other and in an effort to avoid conflict, withheld some of the truth about the way they were feeling. However, they reached the chaos stage when they could no longer avoid certain behaviors and the truths about each other. Because they did not have the skills to manage these feelings or even express them effectively, an ongoing display of negativity, toxic interactions, and hurtful communication ensued. By encouraging the family members to truly listen to one another, their therapist guided them through the initial phase of emptying to one another. By taking the step to be more exposed, vulnerable, and honest with each other, the Smiths are moving in the direction of the community stage, where they will find the healing process and peace for their family. On behalf of Group 1, we would just like to thank you for watching our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.